sides that have had a really tough 2026. And in round 24, Port Adelaide get the win, their 7th of the year in what's been an outstanding contest.
Alrighty, good evening and welcome to the CREEDCAST. It is Tuesday, the 25th of August, and it has been one hell of a weekend. It is the last weekend of the season, of course, that we contend with the dueling Port Adelaide matches in a single Sunday. It was as well. The Port Adelaide men's rolling right over into the Port Adelaide women's games and causing a massive couple of days for Jamie and I to prepare for the podcast tonight. 2 replays to watch and contend with, of course, as we battle along in our normal lives outside of being 2 nuffies on a podcast. So it has been a battle of a couple of days, but we arrive here on Tuesday, the 25th of August, ready to review both matches. They will be released as separate episodes, so we're about to get into the men's here on this episode, and then but keep an eye on your feed for the women's review from the round 2 clash, unfortunately, going down to Hawthorn. So keep an eye on that for that one. But we are here in this episode to deal with the men's match, the men's season, finishing at Marvel Stadium early on Sunday afternoon with a win, and a very, very actually exciting match and a nice kind of way to finish out the year for the men, as kind of miserable as it has been in some recent weeks with the injuries and some of the heavy losses, but they do go to Marvel and get the job done and give us a little bit of just happiness and a smile on our faces as we head into the off-season. Of course, Port Adelaide, 16-9-105, incredibly accurate, one of the more accurate performances I think I've seen from Port in maybe a decade, to 14-11-95 Essendon, a back and forth, real exciting boat race of a last quarter after it had kind of been a reasonably decent match up to that point as well, and some good performances to talk about in it, which I'm looking forward to getting to. But before we get to it all, of course, the talent of the podcast, Jamie, is on the other end of the Riverside screen here. Good evening, mate. An indifferent weekend of emotions. I think maybe the results possibly went the other way, the opposite way that we were expecting. But nonetheless, we get to sit here and review the men's team winning a game one more time here in 2026.
Hello to you and hello to everyone else joining us. Yeah, no shortage of topics to discuss, that's for sure. And I'm looking forward to breaking it all down over the couple of hours that we'll be here together and the 2 episodes, I suppose, everyone else will hopefully tune into. Interesting Sunday, jam-packed Sunday. And like you said, one that went, I wouldn't say completely different. You know, the men did have hope, but didn't really expect what we saw from the women. So, but this first part is the men. So, fuck yeah, take the win. Good on the boys. Let's get into it.
Yeah, and an exciting win that was as well, kind of the way it finished out. We got some real kind of dopamine hits late there with some redemption arcs for the Mitch Georgiades goal kicking over the last recent weeks as well. So we're looking forward to getting into all of that. But before we get into that, there's of course some news around the men's. In case you haven't heard, we'll start with just briefly mentioning, of course, this time of year brings about the delistings, and there were certainly 6 players found out that their time Port Adelaide has come to an end today. And those include Will Lorenz, Manny Liddy, Xavier Walsh, Benny Barrett, Jacob Moss, and Jackson Mead. So a father-son kind of that we've had a lot of hope for in maybe a couple of years ago, but kind of has just fallen away in the pecking order, and things just haven't developed maybe the way he's, the club and he had hoped. A few players there certainly are a chance at a future spot in the AFL, but just the time at Port Adelaide has come to an end. So always a disappointing time of year, Jamie, but it is part of the business, and certainly a club like ours in transition, these kind of delistings, none of them surprised me at all. You're disappointed when you enjoy the Jackson Mead times and the Manny Liddy coming out in the sleeve and having a little run at it last year, but ultimately, this is the business, unfortunately. It's the sad side of it, but it is part of professional sports.
It is the unfortunate side of things and the life cycle of the AFL career. the coveted AFL career. And like you said, none of them are a huge surprise to me. I think the writing was on the wall for a couple of people who actually have had AFL experience with the likes of Jackson Mead, Will Lorenz, and Manny Liddy. I mean, yeah, in amidst our injury crisis and form, the fact that Lorenz couldn't bed down a spot, even though, you know, from a statistical point of view, he'd had a couple of good games there. What was it, in the 2 or 3 game stretch that he played, which was the longest stretch of games this year. Jackson Mead, much the same. Unfortunately, can't crack into a midfield that was pretty bereft of talent.
Mm-hmm.
And Manny Liddy just crawled by injury this year. So, yeah, a bit unfortunate for him and a bit unlucky because he did play a genuine role last year, and just unfortunate. Part of it is the fact that he ultimately was a mid-season recruit to fill kind of a void or fill a role for us in season 2025, although having obviously signed the he signed a 6-month and then got a year extension, didn't he, last year? So yeah, it's just one of those unfortunate things when you're selected in that manner and you get injured in your final year of your 1-year extension. Yeah, you suffer at the hands of list changes and fresh new toys on the horizon. Perhaps there's been a bit of chat, you know, maybe he'll get a rookie spot, or hopefully he gets invited to train on again, because it's a bit harsh sometimes, the AFL landscape and how your career ends. But ultimately, you know, he was a role player. The other 3, unfortunately, never made their AFL debut, and you can only last so long on an AFL list without making a debut. Again, amidst injury crisis and form slump that we were in this year. It seemed, though, Xavier Walsh, on the times that he probably could crack into the side of the last 2 years in particular, he got himself suspended or unfortunately injured. And the other 2 just had their deficiencies that not even they could really bridge at SANFL level, let alone make it at AFL level. So I wish them all the best, obviously, in whatever their next chapter is. And yeah, Meady being a father-son is, you know, it's a bit heartbreaking from that point of view. But 74 games, probably a lot more than what a lot of Port Adelaide supporters feel he could have got, should have got, would have got. I don't have as harsh of views as some. It was nice while it lasted, and yeah, he just couldn't take that next step. So, the Mead family line ends here, unfortunately.
Yeah, it doesn't. The romance can only take you so far in the harsh landscape of the AFL, and of course outside of the delistings here, and there'll certainly be more to come. I mean, there was a few nice bits of news. Lockie Jones, Darcy Byrne-Jones as well. Seems promising signs. Those ones are extended soon. So there is that side of it as well. The out-of-contract players that we do love as well are going to have their time get extended, but this is just the nature of this time of year, particularly when you get a lot of players coming out of contract as well. Of course, the big news that is AFL-wide is that Zak Butters did inform us of his decision to head home to Victoria and exercise his restricted free agency rights, and emphasis on restricted free agency rights. I have done a lot of ruminating on what that means and my frustrations with the AFL, that if we're going to have restricted free agency, that maybe the club gets a little bit more say in maybe at least the team that a player goes to in their home state. But, we'll see what Zak Butters' decision as his preferred destination is in the coming days, I'm sure. Not enjoying the fact that he was sitting in a Geelong-friendly spot at the All-Australian dinner earlier. But that notwithstanding, not surprising at all, Jamie, but it is obviously I've gone through the stages of grief a little bit over the past 24 hours as it's become reality that he doesn't want to be a part of our club anymore. And I've got some differing opinions. Shout out to Timmy Nash, who was messaging on Instagram and kind of noted that I had cheekily shared 3 of our 4 All-Australian nominations on the Instagram stories yesterday and had not shared the Zak Butters one. That was deliberate and maybe a little bit salty of me, but I was just like, no, I'm sharing the players that are with my club at this current stage. Yeah, I'm hurting. I have no ill will to a player that wants to be human and exercise their rights to, explore their vocations and maximize their abilities in that vocation, wherever it may be. In all walks of life, I have that same view. But in this unique thing that we do as sports fans, and whether it's confected a lot of the time, but there is a genuine passion that all sports leagues and all sports teams want their fans to have. They want us to be parochial and one-eyed and all of those things, and we love it. You and I are that to a T, and so there is also going to be a little bit of the human side of me. Absolutely is fine, and I'm not gonna indulge any true dark saltiness. No dumb DMs to a player or dumb comments or heinous things said on social media or to a player or whatever like that. But we can also be a little bit salty about it because he doesn't want to be here and he would rather go somewhere else, and he doesn't want to be a player at my club. So that means he just becomes another player that formerly played for my club, didn't achieve anything beyond some individual accolades. And I'm going to kind of take that route and I'll wish him the best. But I did say to Timmy as well, my rounded out feelings about how this goes and how I feel about it in the future won't be full circle until I know where he's going. And if he does want to go to Geelong, I'm going to be pissed about that because he's a boyhood Dogs fan. I could understand that. Or I could understand Richmond with the money, the truckload of Looney Tunes money they're going to back up and tip the gold coins into his, I could understand that maybe, but Geelong's just icky. I don't like them. There is I feel a bit of a rivalry as we have as Port Adelaide fans with some of the results we've had against them over the years. Obviously, Geelong as a team have got some interesting history, but whether it be how they get players in or what they do, and certainly how they negotiate. It hasn't been fun for us as Port Adelaide fans either, and trying to get a player that wasn't even a starter at their team to our side. There's been a lot of things, and they certainly don't present probably the best case scenario for a trade deal. And if they do negotiate in bad faith and try to nickel and dime us for one of the best players in the competition, I'll be really pissed. So I don't think I'll have my full rounded opinion about how I feel about Zak Butters leaving until we've gone through all of that process. And by then, we might have seen that how much care he does have for Port Adelaide. And I'm sure he does have the care, but it will be interesting to go through this process and see him become the other is what we're going to see. And how that happens, I think will have a little bit of a bearing on his legacy for me. And I'm interested to see how that feels for you and for everyone else out there as well. Put your comments down. It's certainly a wide ranging of emotions, and I've just tried to knuckle it down to a couple of minutes there. But I think the next few weeks and months will say a lot about how I feel about him going forward.
Very well put, and I agree wholeheartedly with your sentiments. I was pretty flat yesterday. Obviously, there's no matter how far in advance you had already accepted it or were trying to get yourself used to the idea. When it's all said and done, it is flattening, and the stages of grief is a nice one. Definitely something I'm very familiar with this year as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's akin to being dumped by a partner. It's a bit of a sensationalist way to put it, but Zak is now an ex-partner, whether it be a boyfriend or a girlfriend, whatever your proclivities may be, as we say on this podcast. But there's obviously various opinions about how you should send a player off when they choose to fucking leave, and how much you want to thank them. We've all been dumped before, I'm sure. And I'm sure some of us have kind of seen the writing on the wall, but haven't wanted to accept it. So you're just kind of delaying the inevitable, and then it comes, and you are nothing but a jilted lover. And as Port Adelaide fans, we are the jilted lovers in this situation. And you don't sit around thanking your ex for dumping you, do you? At the end of the day, like you said, he's got some individual accolades because he has played football for Port Adelaide in the right way. But at the end of the day, you draft 18-year-old kids, you put in the development into them with hopes that they will represent your club on grand final day and win you a premiership. And unfortunately, or, play 200 to 300 games of football, particularly at the end of the spectrum that Zak Butters, for example, was drafted at. But he hasn't done either of those things. So in the words of Dom Cassisi, again, we spoke about this briefly in the preview, and thanks again for those who tune into the previews. In the words of Dom Cassisi, now you were just another player that came through Port Adelaide. And for whatever reason, there is rumours and innuendo of why he actually wants to go back to Victoria, and where they land on the personal spectrum and the family matters spectrum is, all rumours at the moment. And if they're on the more serious end of things that some people are talking about, then that's that. But at the end of the day, yeah, you're right. In sport, in world sport, it is a dog and pony show. It isn't it? Yeah. And this is but an act in the dog and pony show. And in the words of, you mentioned, where he ends up, free agency historically has shown that, in the words of Midnight Oil, the rich get richer and the poor get the picture. So that's why it would not surprise me one iota if Geelong end up with the services of Zak Butters in their employ, which, will fucking suck. I've made my feelings known from when it became a rumour in 2025 as to how sick I feel seeing Zak Butters run around in another Guernsey, because quite simply, it is Victorian clubs that get the benefits of A-grade Victorian talent when it comes to free agency. That's just, the East Coast clubs get their fair share of A-grade free agents. But in terms of clubs west of the East border, again, as mentioned in the preview, we rely on drafting and indoctrination or bringing homegrown talent back. But yeah, there's all these whataboutisms or comparative, scenarios. But at the end of the day, we lose a top 5 player in the AFL, and he'll more than likely go to a team that is a rival and isn't bereft of opportunities or players or anything like that. And that's going to fucking suck. But my feelings are very similar to yours. I'm upset that it's happened. And the unfortunate thing for Zak is that when it comes to Port Adelaide, we've had this similar situation in fairly recent history when, it's 14 years ago when it comes to the matters of Boak, Jackson Trengove, Robbie Gray, and those like it. And I guess this is how the free agency market has changed things over the years. If Trav Boak and if that scenario was happening now, would that happen the same way? Has club loyalty wilted just ever so? Again, it depends on the real reasons, like the real solid reasons why Zak wants to move back, particularly when he speaks about the Port Adelaide Football Club. Excuse me, which, it's not for me to know. But unfortunate thing for him is we've got that, Travis Boak stayed, Robbie Gray stayed, Jackson Trengove stayed until he was on the outer a little bit.
Yeah.
But
Ollie Wines as well.
That's true. That's true. And again, he reiterated on the weekend that he wants to be a one club player. It's not a matter of where he plays football next year. It's, how he feels now that the dust has settled after the last round, and whether he wants to go again for Port Adelaide. But you're damn right. And he won a Brownlow medal, which again is a individual accolade, but now Zak will go and probably fucking win a Brownlow for another club, and they'll get to put it up in their club rooms when we probably feel like we're deserving of that with all the development that we've pumped into Zak Butters. And look, yeah, we may benefit in a couple of years' time from a Nazai Wanganeen-Miller, and St Kilda fans would well be in their rights to be pissed off if that were to materialise. But, you know, if Naz was, Victoria, you know, we're not getting him. Like, it's just that situation. And I don't want to get tangled in comparisons and whataboutisms and things like that. It just sucks. Yeah, it sucks now that 2018 draft, while it looked like a fucking masterstroke at the time, 2 of those top 3 players that we drafted are now back in Victoria, and one plays for fucking Essendon, for fuck's sake. Would rather play in Victoria for a shit fucking club that has no end of cultural problems than stay where people love you and where you had a solid spot. So as you can tell, I'm not taking it fantastically well, but it's just the landscape that we're in. As South Australian Port Adelaide football fans, unfortunately, we play in a league that is heavily dominated by Victoria, and the machinations of how all these things work is you got to draft and pray. Or because Tim Ginniver's alternative is that every club gets a academy, and and you might as well do it the way the NRL does it, and you just bring in your own talent. Because if Victorians are going to constantly go back to Victoria, Western Australians go back to WA, South Australians come back to SA, then you're essentially fucking doing that. You know, another club's putting in development, and you get to benefit when they turn 24, 25, 26. You should play your cards right.
Yeah. You know, it's such a weird way that it's such a unique thing to Australian sports as well. You know, you watch, the NBA and different sports in the US. It's just all about, you know, where you can fit best, and, you know, the occasional go home factor exists over there, but by and large, money talks a lot more, and opportunity talks a lot more. And, you know, it'd be lovely if the machinations of future contracts, maybe there could be maybe an extra, you know, salary cap lever to pull to allow for loyalty bonuses to players that stay with the club they drafted. There is, I think, stuff like that in the NBA contracts, and not that too many players actually care for it because they're dealing in fives and tens of millions of dollars at that end of the spectrum for the stars. But it'd be nice if you could find a way, because it just felt like we could. That didn't matter what we did, though. I think he was probably going to go home anyway. But yes, as I said, it's going to, my feelings, and it sounds like yours will be largely dependent on, and it's certainly not saying we're going to throw the boo birds out and all that stuff next year when he plays, but it's certainly, I might be just a little bit like excited when I see Jason Horne-Francis run through him or something like that. Like, it's just, that's the nature.
Yeah, like I don't
we do.
enter into that kind of stuff, and it, you know, each to their own, because again, I've seen some sanctimonious gatekeeping of how people should act again online. And again, this is a dog and pony show. It's the pantomime of it all. If you want to boo, it's the lens that I see these things in is that it's just part of the pantomime, and now Zak is the pantomime villain, unfortunately, whoever he plays for and whenever they play at Adelaide Oval. You know, and you can't compare Australian rules football or AFL to other sports, other leagues around the world. It's such a niche environment. I know people have tried to compare it to other sports, and that's not taking away from anything that you just said about the NBA. It's just totally different. And at the end of the day, while they're corporate entities, they're football clubs. They're not franchises as well. And you're not trying to fit a player into a starting 5. It's a starting 18, essentially. It's, 23 players. So, it sucks. I'm not happy about it. but we have to live with it and hope that the club gets a return that is going to suit us well and help move us forward, which, I'm not confident in just how the AFL works. It's got nothing to do with Crips. And again, people have their own opinions about our list management, perhaps buying into a bit of cane corn cereal there. But, yeah, just, it's interesting how some of these work. And you mentioned Geelong, for example, they're interesting negotiating over the years.
Yeah. No, it's I'm not looking forward to this kind of period until we get to the point, but I'm sure we'll keep track of it on the podcast. And certainly whenever a deal happens, it might be kind of the case for an emergency pod, whether it's one or both of us that have the ability to do that on the night. It might happen depending on my mood. It certainly will be, because it will be something that both, obviously, that Zak leaving and the official news that he is ending up in a new place will be big news. And then, of course, the compensation that comes through and the more clearer picture we have for our future list management will be an interesting part of that as well. So there's a lot of kind of moving parts there as to where we're going in the next few years. So I was going to say looking forward to it, but I'm not. I will be keeping an eye on it with keen interest, as I'm sure many Port fans will be.
Be happy once it's done to an extent, because it's been a fucking tiring 2 years with all this bullshit going on in the background.
Yeah. And to segue to the game on the weekend, shout out to Mitch Georgiades and Jordan Sweet for just not putting us through that for the next few years. The 3 and 4 year extensions, respectively, for those two, and of course, both of them, some of the best players in the field. As we beat, as I said at the top of the episode, beat Essendon on the weekend. So we're going to be wrapping this review up a little bit quicker than usual because we're trying to get a women's one in later as well. But just before we get to the positives and negatives of the Lions, just for an overall kind of 5 minutes here, Jamie, of course it was a weird match because we had so much youth out there and Essendon did as well. So it was a little bit of, Sunday afternoon bottom teams playing, but it was an entertaining game and we got the right result for us. And we saw some positive performances out of the youth that are still there, whether it be your Murrays, your Berries, your et cetera, and of course the veterans stood up as well. And yeah, it was actually a really, really pleasing result to finish out the men's year, despite the fact it was just Essendon, whatever it may be. I got a lot out of that one.
Yeah, as did I. After a month or so of playing the best of the best and getting absolutely pummeled, it was nice to play a like type again. And yeah, it was two teams both going for the win. I did kind of battle with how I should feel, but at the end of the day, when I see my team play football, I do want them to win every single time. And so yeah, I wrote on Twitter that, to the words of considering the year we've had, it's nice that they got the nourishment, let alone us fans. These guys have been toiling away for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, having to face this adversity. And I think they won in a bit of stylish fashion, or stylish is probably a bit too classy of a word, but they did it in the right fashion. I think they probably surprised a lot of us with 7 goals straight in the last quarter was definitely not on my bingo card. And
it just kind of about
something like that, something crazy like that. It was a bit of a piss take. And shout out Jace Burgoyne. We're obviously going to go through that all soon. But yeah, it was two clubs, both in the bottom reaches of the ladder, chock full of kids. But yeah, they played 4 quarters of footy. It was sloppy at times. It was aerial ping pong at times, but when the whips were cracking in the last quarter, both teams kind of put in a good shift. And thankfully, yeah, we get to finish the season with that high of that final win. And yeah, we now get to rubber stamp the emergence of a handful of players that at the start of the season we either had no idea about, weren't even on the list, yeah, we're in a bit of twilight zone, perhaps, or have just simply taken their game to another level, which was unexpected. So yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. It is crazy looking at this list. I'm just looking through the lines now, and Balin O'Brien, Xavier Bammett, Mitch
Van
Zano,
Wyck.
yeah, Van Wyck. Looking at, I was looking at the Xavier Walsh as well, but he didn't actually end up playing. There's still extended squads from last week, but there's two players, a couple
So
of
yeah,
players.
he did get the travel before you get
Yeah,
delisted.
we did
The
talk about that,
extended
didn't
bench
we? Yeah.
pick.
Come for a trip. Just come for a trip, mate. Get to go into the Virgin Airlines
I
grounds.
had high hopes for that boy.
He's one of the one you earmarked probably a couple of years ago, and for good reason as well. I think even just seeing Xavier Walsh walk past me a couple of times at Alberton when he was there, and he was, I think, injured. Just prototype body. It hasn't come together for him. So, but yeah, you're just looking at our side. There's a couple of two guys that were SSPs at the start of the year. There's two guys that didn't join our side until halfway through the year, and a couple of other guys that Harrison Raymond only played the one game. Josh Lai hadn't debuted at the start of the year, and a few others in there that Jack Whitlock had only played 3 games to start the year, and he ends up playing every game. Moraes was in and out a bit this year. Joe Berry played every game, but Christian Moraes had a good one, and just it was nice seeing those guys come in and have that kind of. A lot of those guys stood up. Bammett had his great moments, a couple of missed kicks here and there, but had some really nice moments. Zado's been a bit of a revelation. It was nice to see that kind of youthful core of imperfect but energizer bunny kind of players just link the lines. A lot of line breaking stuff from the likes of Moraes and Berry, and a lot of good pressure from the likes of Bammett and Zado, and just good footy. I said to you in a text, I think on the weekend, I'm pretty sure we said something along the lines of just Zado's just one of those good footy energies players. Like you texted about how he just celebrates everything, and it was nice kind of seeing that kind of stuff happening in this game. There was some stuff that these guys needed to take into the off season. Yeah, Moraes had probably been one that had been a bit of a scapegoat for some fans over the last few weeks, and he has a really good game. Berry's had a good year. Very strange. Berry's had a good year for most, and obviously Whitlock has as well. But even Whitlock just getting to finish off with a couple of goals, clutch ones in the last quarter. Just that's what I take out of it as an overall thing before we get to the positives and negatives of each line. Just stuff that was needed for these guys to take into the offseason is really, really important after what has been a fruitful year in some respects, but a tough year in many other respects as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Essentially echoing my thoughts before. So yeah, I won't circle back because I agree. Yeah. It's the nourishment, that these young guys need. Yeah, I obviously totally agree. Yeah. We saw the signs against a like type, the DNA that has been spoken about at stages this year. I think by and large was all there on the day. Again, it wasn't pretty for the most part, but yeah, we saw a lot of what we wanted to see from some particular individuals, which was heartwarming, and now gives us that bit of hope. We've cleared the decks a little bit, so the new toys will hopefully come in, and it'll be interesting to see who we target and kind of aim to complement these guys. But a lot of these people that did represent the football club on Sunday, I see them now building into their AFL careers from this point on under Josh Carr. How far that goes is yet to be seen, but I think they all showed parts of what we want moving forward, and how we extrapolate out from young players showing signs, and how that manifests itself going forward will be exciting to see.
Yeah, it absolutely will be. I feel like it could start anywhere, and start in the midfield first. And I'll throw to you at the start of each segment and let you go with what you want to go with first. I'm feeling boyish about this game, so I'm looking forward to see what you've got. But what have you got out of the midfield? Positives wise. I mean, you can go negatives as well, but I feel like you being a similar positive vibes when I can be a guy like me, that you've probably got some positives in there as I do.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Particularly, one where we do kick all of those goals from centre stoppage. It's a pretty good day for the midfielders.
Yeah.
And it's a bit hard not to go over, previous topics or people that we've mentioned. So yeah, just gonna go away from that and just give fair fucks to Christian Moraes, one of our favourites. We've been hopeful that he could get some consistent time at AFL level. He has been in and out, like you said, this year, but I don't actually know how many games in total he's played for this season, but I'm just going to assume that it's more than last year. So it's one move forward. But yeah, I don't think, well, and funnily enough, he played 85% time on ground. And to us, it's no surprise why the statistics look better now. But I think something that a lot of people, and they're probably people who don't listen to this podcast or watch on YouTube. Thanks for your views on YouTube for those tuning in there. Wouldn't understand that a lot of the times that he has played, he's had lower time on ground percentage numbers, and his statistics per percentage or per minute are actually quite good considering the time on ground that he plays. The thing that I like most is he busts a gut from go to woe. He's always looking to get himself into positions to link up. And generally, more often than not, for mine, he makes decent decisions with the football. It doesn't always pay off, but it doesn't always pay off for everyone. Like you've mentioned earlier in this year, we've given 4 or 5 vote games to JHF and Zak Butters, who have gone at 60% disposal efficiency, for example. Or I think JHF might have got a best on ground and he went at 45% disposal efficiency or something like that. So yeah, Christian Moraes, just to get the 19 posies, a friend of the pod, regular listener Jack Traherne mentioned on Twitter, like, is this Moraes' best game for the club? And I mentioned that the Anzac Day game against Geelong was probably his best, where he had the 26 disposals and again was benefited with a lot of time on ground percentage. And the game against the Western Bulldogs a couple of rounds after Anzac Day, he had fairly similar numbers to this. So for those paying attention, and that's not to say that Jack's not, he even just kind of said like, wow, I memory hold that one, which is fair. It's been a long fucking year. There's a lot of footy to consume, but it's obvious that these things can get forgotten, particularly the ones that are kind of poo-pooing young Christian. He's had 3 genuine breakout games, career best games in the 1 year. And if you're doing that, I think you're on the right track. So it was nice to see his involvement in the game. And just another quick stat to round off the positive, 7 score involvements where Mitch and Jace had 9, Jordan Sweet had 8, and then Christian Moraes is 4th for Port Adelaide on the day with 7. So yeah, great effort from him. Well-rounded game, and I look forward to seeing him push on again even further in 2027, hopefully.
Yeah. And just for your note about the games played, he's actually played 2 less games this year than he did last year.
Wow.
Basically he's had 169 disposals this year, and he had 171 last year. So his disposals per game are slightly up on last year's effort. And like
was he the sub? Was he the unfortunate sub regularly?
He was
in those games
he was
last year.
Speaking of memory hold, completely just fucking shot that out of my brain. They took the sub away. Like the sub. I remember when kids, let me gather around and tell you about the sub.
And I think the five on the bench has worked. you know?
Yeah,
Ding-a-ling,
absolutely.
AFL. Ding-a-ling.
McFly. Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, fuck, what a throwback, the sub. Yeah, no, he was the sub a few times, and I think we did lament it in some previews at times, going, fuck, Murray's is going to be the sub. I'd like to see, but yet it kind of just worked because he is such a good, and I think he's got such a selfless attitude about how he goes about what he wants to be as a footballer. He only turns fucking 20 in November. Like, this is a fucking child still. So there's a lot, seeing how he's playing against some, grown men, and he's still developing in his body. I don't know why randomly we were having this conversation, but my dad was having talks today about how, men don't, mature, mentally until their mid-20s. There's 4 or 5 years away. This is why we often say, if a player's showing you signs in these years, then let them develop and don't get too hard on them until they get to that 23 to 25 when you're really hoping they take that next step. And look, some players are absolutely
Prefrontal cortex type stuff.
Yeah. No, I love that you've shouted him out because he really, really impressed me on the day. And kind of my positive out of the midfield is just in a more general term, is just the connective tissue that we saw at times. It was imperfect at times, but some of that line-breaking run, handball chains, handball receives, 1-2s that Moraes was often involved in. Richards was as well. Berry was. There was some real quick-thinking handball stuff. Good, well executed as well. Different times and how we went to go forward. Sometimes it was a little bit imperfect, but just these guys, your Moraes, your Berries and co, were integral parts of us winning this game. And that's what I loved about what they did in that midfield. Obviously, your leaders in there, as bereft as the midfield was from what we hope it will be next year with some fitness back. Ollie and co do lead well in doing the hard yard, contested work. I think Will Brodie was really good in this one as well.
So do I.
Yeah.
How funny is that?
Yeah, it's funny. I still can see why he didn't get a lot of game, like some of maybe the pace of the game and just his speed is an issue, but what he was able to do in the game, considering his maybe limitations, I think was really good. But outside of that, the outside run that was provided by this youthful energy was really, I found that a massive positive out of this game. I was really, really buoyed by just the fact that they kind of took the opportunity to let the leash off and just go, well, we've got nothing to lose here. And I'd be interested to see what Josh Carr's messaging pre-game was, because these guys like your Moraes and Berries and co seem to have just a nice little pep in their step to go execute what they wanted to, just play with a little bit of freedom. And you could see that on the day, and that transited forward to some really, really nice moments forward. And of course, like the Jace Bergwijn's going to come up later, so that's why we're not touching that too much yet. But the youthful energies of these guys that are even below your Jace Bergwijns was really, really impressive to me. And they've still got a lot of growth to go, the Moraes and Berries and co. But there's a lot of reason to stick fat with these guys and let them develop. Again, Christian Moraes is 19 years old. Like, what were you doing at 19? I know I was.
So was Joe Berry.
Yeah.
So was Harrison Ram. That backline, but yeah.
Well, good segue. We'll go to backline next. But when I was 19, I was making a fool of myself in flashies or something like that. So these guys are doing some good.
100%.
Good gear.
Yeah. I was pissing all my money up the fucking wall. So yeah, that's what I talk about with. We had a discussion about JHF a few rounds ago, I think, and just appreciating the fact that he can actually carry the team on his back, after Zak Butters went down, and so without his captain, vice captain, and just that discussion about letting young men mature, and like how fucking childish and dumb I was at late teens, early 20s level, and working at McDonald's and fucking partying most of the time, and these kids are living their dream, and are elite athletes, and yet to grow even further, the likes of those boys who are yet to reach 20. Again, AFL or Australian rules supporters can tend to heap a bunch of shit on young men, or put a lot of pressure on young men without actually just opening their eyes a little bit to the situation.
Mhm.
Yeah, before we move on, one thing that I did, notice watching the replay was the more prevalent use of handball and trying to link up from coast to coast, or break the lines. Yeah, whether that was a shackles off kind of thing, it was a good time to do it if it was a directive, and one can assume that it probably was a directive, but it was a good time to do that against, a bottom four team, a like type, as I've said a couple of times now. We were kind of battening down the hatches there against the likes of Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, but now coming up against Essendon, where coming into the game, you're realistically going to assume a bit more freedom. It was a nice time to try that out. And hopefully now, understanding that we put a heavy focus on our defensive system in the off-season last year, hopefully we do evolve that offensive prowess and we blend the two come into 2027. I dare say we want to still lock up that defensive structure, because it's not like these things get bed down in one off-season, working our way to a premiership, hopefully. That's obviously the goal. But that offensive side of things was definitely more prevalent in this game than it has been in the last 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, it was, and it was really pleasing to see that they did let them kind of have that crack at it, and that's what you want to do in these kind of games, and it gave us a nice little win as well. The back line, it's hard to really. You can throw a few negatives around if you wanted to because of the inexperience down there, but considering this is a back line that didn't have any of the three backliners that have been maybe the top tier, as at least in name, across the last 3 years, whether you call Aliir, Asava Radikalia, Brandon Zak Thatcher at times. I know he's fallen out of favour in the last 18 months with his injury problems, but again, 3 years ago when he came in, he was meant to be one of those guys. We don't have any of them in this game. And you're leaning on a defense that's being led by, the tallest player down there is a player that's played, maybe 10 games or less in Harrison Ram. Josh Ly's suddenly become seems like one of the leaders down there in a way, even though he's only made his debut this year. Balin O'Brien's only come in for the last few games and had like an absolute fucking gauntlet of good teams to play against. And so there's been this baptism of fire to some of these guys, and there was mistakes in this game, but ultimately, I think I look at it myself as to throw my positive out is that although there was mistakes, and I do want to see a good preseason from Harrison Ram because I think he's got some things as far as his game awareness to work on. He's clearly got the body and the height and the reach and all those things. It's just he kind of finds himself in no man's land a little bit too much and leaves himself too much work to do, and then he starts looking gassed, but it's because he's left himself too much work to do because he maybe isn't reading things quick enough. So it's like this chicken and the egg thing with him. But I'm going to try to stick to positives, being at the end of the season and a game that did fill me with a lot of joy. I think these kind of experiences are quite beneficial to the team, and in particular, playing against a team that's got Nate Caddy's a fucking talent. Like he was the lone wolf for them in the game earlier this year as well, and again in this game, he just played. He plays like it's a final. Like the way he kind of stalked from behind the point line, and there was a little bit of Vicentini as well. We had so many players down there that are just learning how to play defense at an AFL level, and it was everyone in the D. There was no leader down there, like with the league gone. It was just like, so I kind of am pleased with the fact that they figured it out to get us a win. I know it's only Essendon, but they did still hold up, and in particular, like Josh Ly laid on, not conceding that point and getting the rebound started for the Whitlock eventual sealer. Like there's some things that you're seeing there out of a completely inexperienced patchwork defense that I was really, really pleased with. So that's kind of my positive, is that like despite the fact that it's like it's like the end of Starship Troopers when they're looking at the replacements, and Rico's like, they look a little young and it's fucking 13-year-olds. It felt like that looking at the defense this week, and they still get us the win. So Rico's Roughnecks, Vicentini's Roughnecks, whatever you want to call them, I don't know. Like it's they did the job, and I think a lot of learnings are taken from this, and particularly for Harrison Ram, is kind of the one I'm keying in on. Like, he can take the last few weeks into an off season and kind of figure out what he's going to be next year, because I think there's a big off season for him. He's taken a lot of learnings from the last few weeks.
Yeah, whether prematurely or unfortunately, yeah, whatever connotation you want to make, there's a gap that needs to be filled for, say, the first half of next season with Radagalia's recovery. Obviously going to be a tender issue, and from what I've briefly heard about patellas, they could lag in terms of their recovery or how you actually come back from them. Like, Asava might be able to play football, but is he going to be able to play top line defense like he was before he got injured, even after he comes back? It's left to be said. So yeah, for the likes of Harrison Ram, BZT can probably count himself lucky in that regard, or else I dare say he may have been on that list today of delistings. Potentially Asava being injured is, Moss being a project defender as well. Those are things perhaps, and there may still be more delistings. Like lists don't have to be lodged for a little while yet. So yeah, but in terms of Harrison Ram, yeah, he's raw, he's young. I know the likes of Chad Corns from the previous coaching group, and then even in this preseason leading into the season, there was a lot of positivity around the way he's gone about it since he came in as a mid-season recruit. But at the end of the day, yeah, he's a 19-year-old string bean who was a young project at Glenelg before he got drafted. And I think a lot of people, again, are heaping a lot of pressure on a young man who has his prefrontal cortex hasn't developed yet. And thankfully, when it does, he's an SA boy, so he won't be going to Geelong. But yeah, there was a couple of marks there, a bit of contest stuff, but there was not a lot to show for Harrison Ram. And we went into the game, in the preview, basically conceding that Nate Caddy was going to kick his fair share of goals, because it was the likes of Ram and Visentini who were having to man him. They had Lockie Jones did spend some time on him, but yeah, unfortunately, yeah, not even Lockie Jones could keep him quiet necessarily. And
he's a talent. Like, you just can't, like, yeah. That's what injuries do to your defense as well, is it just breaks up structure. And when you don't have a lead, like you had guys like kind of at times, like when that Nate Caddy, when he comes from behind the point, like where it's like a Peter Wright shot that falls short, and kind of just people.
And the umpire basically shepherds Visentini.
Yeah.
Unknowingly.
Player contact from an umpire. Is that a finable, or are we just anyway? But yeah, like you could just see there's a little bit of like just players, when you don't have a general down there, when you've got too many players that are inexperienced down there, you're just going to get those breakdowns in communication and structure. But they still, their effort can't be discounted, I think, is kind of where I'm at with it as well.
Yeah.
It's just like they efforted the hell out of the game and ultimately kind of helped us get a win somehow.
And yeah, I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater at all.
Oh yeah,
there's some people online who
definitely do
want to make ruthless calls again on teenagers, which I don't agree with. These things take time. I think a lot of the best. We also want to read. Yeah, exactly. Conflicting ideologies there, I think. But even the best teams don't fucking chuck out teenagers when they're taking a bit of time to develop at their craft. I think a lot of the best defenders in the competition weren't world beaters at 19 years old either. So there's time. It's just the intricate nature of like our best key position setup is going to be affected, and our next rung down is just, it's either you're going BZT for experience, but the athleticism is just poor, unfortunately for him, or you're going Harrison Ram, who's got the body and the athleticism, but the craft needs a bit of work, and it's just, or you continuing with Visentini and, you know, maybe reinvigorating a lot of, or unlocking the defensive memory from the back of his mind. I mean, yeah, finishes the day with 5 marks and 5 intercept possessions, Dante. It's just been a weird, surprising, like, yeah, might have something there.
Yeah.
And maybe if they do persist with that, the competition between him and Ram can kind of accelerate a bit of progression. These are all high hopes, but it is intricate going into 2027. But I agree with you in the fact that it wasn't for lack of effort on the day. And yeah, Essendon and Port Adelaide end with the same scoring shots. Thankfully, we take better advantage of ours in the end. And yeah, that young core of the back line on the day got the job done to that degree.
Yeah. What's funny is expected score should have been a 20-point win for Essendon. You were just talking about the scoring shots.
Right. Okay.
Probably a good segue to just talking about the forward line briefly before we get to the segments. But yeah, expected score for Essendon 101.5. Port's
I don't have Wheeler
81.8.
up. My bad.
No, I always put the kind of into my notes pack. I put the bit of Wheelo into there, and so I just scrolled down. So it's like I hadn't actually checked the expected score, which, if you know me, that's actually really, really odd. But maybe just shows that I was really at the back end of this season. But the fact that it's basically a 30-point flip on expected score to versus the actual score. The win. So. We're just in a place we've been in that much this year, and it comes down to a forward line that clicked really well when given the opportunity. Obviously, the inside 50 entries, I think, were +7 to Essendon, but I mean, really the key to us missing finals this year, Jamie, I boil it down to this, is the fact that we didn't sign Mitch Georgiades to an extension in round 1, but beyond that, a lot of positives, a lot of positives to take from the forward line. Maybe if we park Mitch Georgiades, because I think he'll pop up in votes. What else do you got? Because there's a lot to like about some of the youth that's running around down there, and just the way they played as well.
Oh, yeah, tough to individualize. Because you do want to kind of throw a blanket over a few players, the unsung heroes of it all. But yeah, Mitch Zato. You mentioned the text. What I said to you was that I love the way that he loves a goal. I love how much he loves a goal. I think that's pretty much what I said. So yeah, but it's just, again, it's a DNA piece. You know, you mentioned before, these guys have a pep in their step next year. They may have a pep in their side with them next year as well, which, again, I find myself forgetting that he wasn't there. And a lot of people in the AFL landscape definitely have forgotten that important piece to our puzzle. But yeah, just the emergence of him in particular. You could go Bammett, you could go him. Jack Whitlock obviously emerged, but we were already privy to Jack Whitlock coming into this season. But yeah, Zato's just come from obscurity after being a premier grade cricketer right up until he was basically, 17 or 18, and then decided to take footy more seriously and started playing in the Waffle. And we picked him from obscurity. And obviously, again, we brought him up before earlier this season, but this was the pick over Jaden Stevenson. And Josh Carr, this management team have obviously seen something in Zato, the shadow, to suggest that he's going to fit better in the system that Josh Carr wants. And it is more of a long-term play, even though SSP, I think, is only a short-term contract. I'd be surprised if he doesn't get extended at this point, because he does the things that you want a small forward to do. You want them to be aggressive. You want them to be nipping at the heels of the key position. You want them putting on pressure. You want them to get under the skin of the opposition, because everyone loves to hate an opposition small forward who's a fucking nuisance. And he has that vibe. And you love them when they're on your team, obviously. The likes of Papley come to mind. I think he sticks out for a lot of people. You fucking love him. Stephen Milne going back a long way. For those, again, we understand our demographic. We're probably all well over, Stephen Milne and his exploits. Very good small forward though. And again, you love them when they're on your side. And he's got that he's got that je ne sais quoi about him. He's obviously got room for improvement, and he's 21. He's still got time, and I think there's another level that he could go to if he puts in the work. But the benefit for him is he looks fucking fit, and clearly is. He's quick. He's fit. He could run out a game and still put on just as much pressure at the start of the game, or at the end of the game, as he can at the start of a game. So I think it's just he's not going to finish high up on our best and fairest count, but it's just something to go, all right, so when you put the pieces together in a perfect world and you build your forward line, you got George, Witters, Todd Marshall, if you want to go 3 tall forwards, and then you go, all right, well, who's going to round that out? Sam Powell-Pepper, Corey Durden, obviously, who's had a fantastic season in his own right, probably deserves a positive mention too. But then, you're going, well, who's gonna do the things that you as a fan or you as a coach want to see on game day? And defense starts from the front if it's in that vicinity, and he's the type of guy that you want crashing and bashing, being a nuisance to the opposition, and he can also impact on the scoreboard. He's a fairly accurate shot on goal too, which is helpful. And so that's the kind of level that he can go. He can basically do what Corey Durden did this year, take his goal kicking to another level, and impact if he gets regular games, which I don't see why he wouldn't at least occupy a bench spot next year. It'll be an interesting exercise when it's all said and done, and depending on who we bring in. But it's just an unexpected surprise to this season out of Mitch Zadok.
Yeah. He's we love the term impact per possession on this podcast, and he's one of those guys, isn't he? Yeah, it's
love you, Willie. Hope you're doing well, Willie Rioli.
Willie Rioli.
We love Willie.
Always going to be a podcast favorite. And you're right about kind of like he's a natural athlete. It's just what he looks like. He's one of those players that, whether it's just, I'd love to be naturally fit like him, but he just seems to have that. And obviously he works at it, being a football player and obviously growing up as an athlete as well. But
he looks like the type of guy who loves being in and around a gym.
Yeah. He's like the guy that leads the gym in draft day, where he's just like, "You seeing what he's throwing? You seeing what he's throwing?"
Yeah.
I can't think of what the quarterback's name is. It's Superman from Smallville. But anyway, draft day, rewatchable.
Tom Welling.
Yeah. There's a name for his character, the quarterback, because they're trying to draft the other guy. And anyway, I'm going to watch draft day tomorrow. You did kind of side mouth a little Corey Durden chat. I did want to bring him up as my positive, because I think what's been interesting about Zado coming in is it has changed kind of like Corey Durden's maybe scoring output has been down a little bit lately, and obviously opposition hasn't helped either, and he's still been getting his goals. But what I loved about Durden's game in this one is he doesn't kick a goal, but he still has 5 score involvements, a couple of goal assists. He goes at 87% disposal efficiency, has some really, really nice little hand, but like he's not a player ever goes missing in the way we play our forward line. That's partly, and he did some up the ground stuff where he came up and his work rate got him on the outside for one of those chain of possession, a few diagonal kicks down the field, and he just worked his ass off to get out into the wing into open space to take a mark receive and get involved in the play down there, but then he gets a couple of direct goal assists as well through that work rate and going up for the mark. I think Murray's goal might have come from a Durden handball. I think
was one of the goal assists.
That was one of them. So yeah, it's positive to see that Zatto's come in and maybe kicked a few of the goals that Durden would, and Durden still has had his goals in the last few weeks, to be fair, in some of those games against them, and very, very good sides that are beating the pants off of us. But in this game, in a game that we're scoring well and getting a lot of opportunity for some of our regular contributors to the scoreboard, as I have a stroke. Zatto kind of kicks his couple of goals, but Durden still gets his goal assist and scoring goals. And I find that really, really positive. Looking forward in particular as to what Durden, Durden's just so five tool as far as his impact on that forward line. It's really, I found that quite a positive performance, despite the fact he doesn't actually get on the scoreboard. For one of the few times this year that he hasn't, it's actually one of the games that I'm quietly impressed, as impressed as I am any other game he's had this year, because he really was. I was surprised to see he didn't score a goal when I looked at the scoreboard, because
me too.
I felt his impact. So that's a really, really great thing for our forward line, that we have so many guys that are popping up around there. And again, this time last year when Willie Rioli's retiring and the Durden trade hasn't happened yet and Zatto's not on the team yet, we were kind of like, God, what are we doing at that position? And now I've got to kind of, it's not a settled debate, but Durden's really, really settled it this year, coming up with, a goal scoring season as good as any of our other small forwards of the last decade, really. And Zatto's kind of popped up as well. And, as you said, Sam Bowpepper's been, not even played this year. And Jason Horne-Francis has popped. There's kind of options. We've found some optionality through maybe some luck in Zatto just working out as well as the list managers hoped. And Durden's just been great as well. So, there's some real nice optionality coming out of some of these unsung heroes in the forward line this year. And of course, a few mainstays in that forward line are going to pop up in the segments here shortly, which we should get to, so that we can wrap this one up and get to the women's review in the other episode as well. So, of course, thank you for listening as always. This is a shorter review than we usually like to do, because we're wrapping up 2 games in 1 week. But thank you for listening. Get around the Spotify, whether you listen on Spotify, Apple Pods, YouTube, subscribe, like, rate and review. 5 stars, please, would be preferred. Anything less than that, maybe just send us a DM and say let me know why you don't want to give us 5 stars. And I'll throw it into the suggestion basket. But otherwise, get around our social media as well. The social media has been popping off this year, and it's been really, really fun chatting to the regulars, and shout out to the regulars that do contribute regularly. We do really, really enjoy your input, and I do just love chatting with the Port fans and getting to know a lot of people around the landscape. And of course, say g'day to us if you see us down at Alberton or Adelaide Oval, Alberton as it will be for the rest of the year. But we really, really do enjoy the interactions and getting involved with you guys. So get involved with us on all the social medias and on the YouTube comments or whatever it may be. We do appreciate your input into the podcast and your friendship through that as well. So without further ado, let's get to the segments, which of course we always start on this podcast in the men's review with the Wilson Grey.
Down, Gray doing brilliantly, getting through to Monfries. That's Gray at his best.
Wilson kicks hard and kicks truly.
Alrighty, Jamie gets to go first this week on the Wilson Grey, and I will just note that last week's winner was my nomination of Dante Lang the Boom, which is just Dante every year is going to get one of these nominated, I think. But 53% voted for Dante's big bump on, I think it was Caleb Windsor, with over 47% that voted for the nomination of Lockie Jones's attacking intercept possession. So a really, really nice close vote there, but Dante gets the chocolates there. Jamie, you get to go first this week. What do you got for us?
All right. We spent a lot of time talking about the last quarter. We also spent a bit of time talking about Mitch Zetto, but mine's not from the last quarter. It is about Mitch Zetto, and it's in the first quarter where he sets his sights on Dyson Sharp. Unfortunately for Dyson Sharp, getting mown down for the second time in the quarter. But yeah, Zetto chasing down Dyson Sharp about 6 minutes 50 on the clock in the first quarter, just lines him up and makes sure he doesn't get rid of that ball.
Caldwell, McGrath, Sharp. Oh, he's rolled himself into a real pickle, and Zetto's got him.
Drifted across as we have a look at this holding the footy. Just lost his footing and got buried as a result.
Love that. Zetto's been, a feature in a lot of good energy moments for us, whether it be in this segment or just us in text messages as well. So, but he did have a good Wilson Gray moment a few weeks ago when he celebrated a defensive spoil like he'd scored a goal. So, he's just a good footy energy. He's the epitome of Wilson Gray kind of stuff. So yeah, good nomination from you. I'm going to nominate one that came from the fourth quarter and a similar young player doing something that we just love to see. Whitlock, about 9 minutes, 35 seconds left in the fourth quarter, down the defensive end, just charges in for a spoil and just knocks it over the line.
And then Weir kicks it outside the defensive arc, and then attacking it was Whitlock with interest and out.
Well, it's a great spoil. You've got to watch the work rate of Nate Caddy behind the football and how hard he works just to get a look at it. There's times that he's worked so hard and he has some separation on his opponent.
Perfectly executed spoil, knocked it over the line. Does it, for a gangling kind of, still like 200 centimeter player that you still think is growing into his body, for him to actually execute that spoil that well, I was quite impressed with. It was real Bambi, arms and legs going everywhere, but somehow just that one arm.
It was a strong spoil, though.
It was. It's just like it's aesthetically surprisingly pleasing. So Jack Whitlock just continuing to do so much. A lot of good marks in this game. Obviously kicks a couple of goals, but his spoil in the fourth quarter, which was in a close, tight fourth quarter, a crucial moment in the game. So yeah, that's my nomination for the Wilson Gray this week. And
I loved him calling game, by the way. Bit of arrogance. I don't know if it was arrogance or just an inside joke, but I fucking loved it when he kicked the sealer at the end of the game. So
he was not wrong. It was fucking game. Deuces. A lot of goal of the week nomination options, by the way. So let's get
on
to
that
it.
topic.
Yeah. Let's try to work through this shortlist.
Monfries has kicked a goal. Unbelievable. Haven't seen anything like that. It's gone at right angle.
Flashpoint, Stevie Motlop, what a time!
I was floating on air when Whitlock was calling game, but we'll see if that pops up into the nominations because there's a fair few options this week, I believe. Just last week, the winner was Sweets Snap, won with 62% of the vote, over 38% of the vote going to the nomination of Mitch's reverse swing. So I think it was Jamie that nominated the Sweet Snap. So Sweet Snap, which is a lot of sweet snaps this year. And he gets the nomination, which is very, very lovely in a week that he extended his time with us for another 4 years, which we're very excited for. So shout out Jordan Sweet. I get to go first this week in the Goal of the Week nominations. And boy, oh boy, do I still not exactly know where I'm going to go with. But I'm just looking at one that, look, I'm just going to go with the low-hanging fruit and let Jamie take the pick of the others because there is a fair few. But look, whether it's the greatest set shot Mitch Georgiades has ever executed, I think it's up there. But I think when you take into consideration the moment, maybe even the back of the mind of his chance to win a game earlier in the year against Hawthorn, which was missed at the same ground, Mitch's go-ahead late in the fourth quarter, his fifth goal of the game to put us ahead. The celebrations were well executed, and ultimately I think that's my nomination for Goal of the Week because I think it wasn't the easiest of set shots, but with the moment that it was, it made it the degree of difficulty For those that play Madden or college football on the PlayStation, you know what happens when the stadium pulse hits the PlayStation controller and you're feeling the pressure. And Mitch Georgiades was ice cool, and as he's been pretty ice cool in the last couple of weeks, and slots that without much trouble and puts us ahead, and ultimately, gets us on the way to a win. So that's my nomination. Mitch's go ahead late in the fourth quarter.
Burgoyne. Port have got something to say about it. Burgoyne inside 50. Georgiades.
Set of bounce again.
A clutch moment for Mitch Georgiades. And it's a magnificent kick for a goal. The question back on the Bombers.
Yeah, nice. That was actually going to be my honourable mention because, like you said, there is a lot to pick from, and I echo your sentiments. I'm sure we all had the Hawthorn game in the back of our minds when he took that mark, and you're just saying to yourself, "Can this be the moment?" Like, you've had a good run of goal kicking, just do the thing, and he did it. So yeah, that's a good call. There was a lot of good team goals in this game as well. It's probably where I'm going to pick from. I mean, you mentioned low-hanging fruit. Like, there's a bunch of fruit that's already dropped off the tree and just go and pick it up off the ground, basically. They're talking about Whitlock Sealer, like juices, like you mentioned it earlier in the defense chat. Josh Lye just having the cojones to not rush it, and a rush behind would have been, from a clock management point of view, beneficial to us, but it's just gone, nah, fuck it. I'm just going to clear the area. And then, Murray's kicks to space. George paddles it on, Jack Whitlock. But I'm actually going to go another team goal because it was of the chaotic nature of it all. Actually, funnily enough, I'm going to go the Mitch Zatto double. He finishes off some chaotic team play where Sweet clears it from the centre. George gets a hand on it. Whitlock gets a handball out to Tommy Anastasopoulos, who kicks it in, comes off a bit of hands. Joe Berry crumbs and flicks it out to Mitch Zatto, which brings us back to under a goal in the last quarter. So the goal was actually kicked at around 13 minutes 30 on the clock in the last quarter. But as we know, Essendon got out to a 14-point lead. Jace Burgoyne kicks his second goal. And then, Zatto kicks that good team goal pretty well straight after that, which gets us back within striking distance.
Side 50 with the kick towards Wines. Fist at the back from Pryor, didn't kill it. Gives Berry a chance. Over the top he goes to Zatto. Zatto shrugged the tackle, stood up, goes for goal, kept his footing. It is a goal. It's back to 2 points. It's game on.
Right back in it now, Port Adelaide. At centre bounce, Del.
Yep.
That's been the influence in this last term.
Spot on.
Yeah, that was a sweet goal. Just the way he kind of shrugged off the tackle as well, and ice cool finish.
And
as
he
well.
loved the goal. Yeah. That was the other thing I said. Yeah, I was like, I thought he was subdued because they didn't show the celebration, and I was like, oh, he's celebrating with Berry. Yeah, cool. And then they showed the reverse angle on the replay, and he's giving it to the crowd. Yeah. Love it. Good energies. Good boy.
Oh, these Essendon fans are like, who is this 8-gamer that's just giving us the fucking just fucking.
Yeah, they would have been like that. Who the fuck is this guy? Number 39. We're like, isn't that Justin Westhoff?
Where's the beard gone, and why is he shorter?
Short, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, and there was plenty of good goals in that one, but I think those are two good nominations. It'll be interesting to see what people go with. I might have latched at the sentimental vote there, but we'll see what the people decide. Whatever it be, it'll be a very, very good nomination from what was a very, very entertaining game in the end. Well, let's get to the votes because it'll be our last votes of the year for the men, and Jamie will get to go first. So I'm very, very interested to see where he goes here. Now it's time for the CREEDCAST Player of the Year voting. All right, as I said, Jamie, you get to go first with your votes, 5 through 1, 1 being fifth best on, 5 votes going to your best on. What do we got?
Yeah, gonna go unconventional again and do an honourable mention before you do. So apologies for that. But yeah, just have to shout out Will Brodie again. Like, he ends up as our third best AFL rated player on the day. And the funny thing is that he only had 61% time on ground for his 22 disposals and 8 ground ball gets and the couple of other key statistics so he's probably unlucky not to get a vote, to be honest. And it's just a very interesting subplot to the season, the whole Will Brodie trade and experiment. But credit where credit's due. Willem Drew went out, and I think by and large he fills that void pretty manfully, pretty honourably. Anyway, so yeah, unconventionality aside, my one vote goes to Ollie Wines. I think it was on Reddit. There was discussion about Ollie Wines just, continuing next year and broaching that topic. And I think I don't know if it was the original poster or someone commenting, was just like, Ollie Wines should go on. He's not there for dynamic run and he's not there to break lines. He's there to get his big fat ass in the way of someone, maybe not that harsh, but get his big butt in the way of an opposition player, scoop it out and hand it off to the teammates that do break the lines. And I just love the way, and it was a lot more to the comment, but it just encapsulated all of my kind of thoughts between Ollie. It's like, and it's that discussion point about having the balance in your midfield, not having all one way or the other, having that, and Ollie Wines being just that rare ball that's hard to match up against. And yeah, he did it again in this game, if you bear with me. So he had the 27 disposals from 74% time on ground. So yeah, in times of need, he's pushed on and spent more time on ground. 27 disposals, 10 contested, 237 metres gained, 3 clearances, 11 pressure acts, 5 tackles. So yeah, just Ollie Wines, have another year. Fucking, you are a legend of the football club. Excuse me. 2 votes goes to Christian Moraes. Spoke about him before. But yeah, all things considered, he has the 19 disposals going at 84.2%. He's our 4th best rated player on the field as well. If you take any credence to that or whatever word you want to put to that. 332 metres gain, 7 score involvements. He had the 2 goal assists as well, 4 inside 50s, and he had a couple of tackles for good measure. 17 pressure acts to Christian Moraes. 3 votes goes to Jordan Sweet. Interesting note on Jordan Sweet. It was a rare game where he didn't win hit out. However, him and Van Wyck actually partnered up and it was Nick Bryan was the main opposition. They combined won that battle, but yeah, rare. But it doesn't take away anything from Jordan Sweet's game, where Jordan Sweet didn't for once win the hit outs. He just absolutely won his position in all other aspects of it with his 15 disposals, 10 contested, going at 86.7%, 235 metres gained. He obviously kicks the 1 goal, which was a great goal from 50 that kind of came out of nowhere a little bit. I think a lot of us probably thought he was going to maybe go for the chip to the top of the goal square, 20 metres out. But yeah, he just roosts it. 7 clearances. He finishes with 8 score involvements, 6 score launches, 3 1%ers. So Jordan Sweet, best and fairest night is going to be very interesting with, how our team rounded out over the year and who played consistent games amidst the crisis. And, unfortunately, if there wasn't a few unicorns running around in the ruck stakes, he may get a look in, a look in for all Australian type honours and things like that. But I think it's fair to say that he's maybe the 4th best ruck of the competition this season. I'll leave it to others from other teams to quabble about that. But yeah, he's had a fantastic season, and this game basically capped it off. 4 votes for me goes to Mitch Georgiades. Real captain's game for Mitch.
Yeah.
Puffed his chest out and, finishes the game with the 5 goals. I think someone mentioned that it's now 12 goals, 3 from his last 3 games. So as Dave mentioned, would have been nice for him to sign on the dotted line a bit sooner in the piece, because perhaps, that's been weighing on his conscience and affecting his goal kicking.
Was that 80% fucking accuracy after being at 45 for much of the year?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I saw someone.
And he's snapping him like he's fucking like a small forward, like, Robbie Gray from
on
the pocket.
Both feet, mind you. But if I can just pad here for a so he had the 15 disposals, 73.3 disposal efficiency, 9 marks. It just seemed whenever it was in his vicinity, thought he got a bit of Charlie Dixon treatment a couple of times, like a bit unlucky. Gave away a couple of free kicks, which he felt a bit hard done by as well. But 5 goals, 1, 9 score involvements as a whole. And what was that? A few sprinklings of other statistics that I won't bother to read out. But as a forward, kicking 5 goals, being captain as well, when your team's in need, capped off by that goal at the end to put us in front, just showed. It was not that we needed reminding, but it was another handy reminder of what a Mitch Georgiades can do to impact a game of football. I think they tried a couple of different opponents on him. 5 votes, though. Mr. Do-It-All. Jace Burgoyne. Well, have a season, Jace Burgoyne. Yeah. From obscurity, and I mentioned, was it the Sydney game? Was the culmination of his experience in each line that he's played football in at AFL level. And he's just blending everything together so fantastically well. And you want to talk about positives in a shit year. There's no bigger, I think, now than Jace Burgoyne. 24.9 player rating, which is pretty ridiculous. It's very good. Some of the best players. Sorry?
Was that I'm pretty sure that was a personal best for him as well. I could be wrong, though.
It's hard to know because he would have had a few lately in that. The best players in the comp are getting in the 20s for player rating. So 30 disposals, 21 kicks, 15 contested possessions, 5 intercepts, 7 ground ball gets. His disposal went at 76.7%, 580 odd meters gained, 5 marks, 2 goals, but he also has the 2 goal assists in his 9 score involvements, 7 clearances, 6 inside 50s, 18 pressure acts and 8 tackles. So this is the thing. It's the offensive game isn't coming at the expense of the defensive side of his game, which we know he's more than capable of doing. 2 1%ers as well for good measure. That's the most pleasing thing. So when it's all said and done, when Zak Butters is fucking playing at Cardinia Park, the guy with the last name Burgoyne, who is part of Port Adelaide fabric, a part of the furniture, a part of our storied history, the Burgoyne name, he's just quietly done his apprenticeship and gone, I wouldn't mind continuing on with this little caper you call being a midfield gun. And I look forward to seeing him flourish next year, because he will clearly be in our midfield come round 1 next year, unless he's injured, of course. And touch wood, we've got that fucking monkey off our back, and we can actually have a healthy season next year.
Yeah. I'm going to build a fucking wood cabin in the hills and fucking touch all the wood in the summer. That sounds weird. Anyway.
Touch wood.
Yeah. Great votes by you. And very, very similar for me. There's actually only one positional change, and it is marginal. I have Murray's in my 1 spot and Wines in my 2 spot. Same reasons as you, though, for rewarding them with their spots. And shout out to your honourable mention as well. I tried to get Brody in there.
It would have been like, yeah.
Not that I had any reason to. It's not like Brody's got really any sentimental value to me. He's
It's like
played a couple of games.
the negativity
I
from everyone else is just like, it's just put up a block there. It's just like that. He has claims to be one of the best on ground, like, or in our best players, I should say, not best on ground, but yeah.
I liked Darcy Burn-Jones' stat line, but watching the game, maybe I just didn't notice it. But he put up a decent line. So Murray's in my one spot. Wine's
Same
my
with
two
Bergman
spot.
on that note. Sorry to keep cutting in, but DBJ and Bergman,
right.
just decent stats. Again with Bergman, I've got this, like, it's like the opposite of rose-colored glasses in the last couple of weeks. And
What, brown?
just in
Shit colour?
shit color. Nah, he's not shit. I love the way that Miles Bergman
I know
plays
you like
defensively.
Your shit don't stink.
Stink. But roses. I love the way that Miles Bergman plays defensively. He's good in a handball chain. I just feel like his kicking lacks what we want out of a burgeoning star, or who's going
And what
to
we know
fill
that he can
void.
do. We know he can fucking lace the fuck out of that thing, for 50 meters.
He can kick a ball.
Yeah.
It's just the precision and the retention rate off of his boot. I was trying to look for kicking efficiency statistics before, but in my scramble, I couldn't find it. Overall, he went at 63.6, but it's not really a negative. It's just,
You want more.
yeah. I just want him, like, if you go back and watch the game, there's opportunities where he can pick players out by foot, but it's just not good enough. And there's turnovers or it's not to advantage. And we need, like, if he's the good player that's going to take his game to the next level, then I'm expecting him to be able to pick those kicks off. And it's just become obvious. Like, I've seen something and I can't unsee it now. So go to work in the off season, Miles Bergman.
Mm-hmm. It's a big
Totally
off-season.
interrupting your votes, by the way. I apologize, but
No, you're not interrupting anything.
his stats look good.
Yeah. My 3, 4, 5 were the exact same as you, Jordan Sweet, Mitch Georgiades and Jace Burgoyne. Mitch Georgiades unlucky not to get the 5 votes for his performance, but Jace Burgoyne's game was just that good. As you well kind of described, his well-rounded two-way stat line. It's too good to ignore. And we've discovered something in Jace in this second half of the year. I think we kind of brought it up a little bit in our mid-year review that kind of the one of the key players I wanted to see the penny drop for was Jace Burgoyne. It certainly has in the last few weeks. Really excited for him. Really excited for the off season. There's a lot of boys here that have got some exciting kind of pre-seasons to go because they've found a little bit of something in these last few weeks, which is, as you go into the last part of the season in a year that's not going anywhere, this is the kind of opportunities you look for. So, I think that
we'll likely do a season review anyway, and we'll probably expand on a few of these people a bit more.
We definitely will.
When that drops.
Yes, I'll got to get in contact with friend of the pod Eddie and see if he's got the time to jump on a season-ending review with us. I know he was keen for it in the middle of the year. So yes, an end-of-year review will be coming properly for the men's in the next couple of weeks. But for now, that is it for the men's for 2026. So we appreciate you sticking around for the men's year. I know it's been a tough year, but it's been a real intriguing one, and one that I think when we look back in a few years in history, we'll look back on this year as one that, while the results didn't go our way, we discovered a lot about our side and what we're going to be in the next 5 to 10 years. So looking forward to the future and looking forward to doing the full spectrum end of season review. But for now, that's about it for this. So we'll... if you're looking to listen to the W review, make sure you stick around on the feed. The women's review for round 2 is on the feed as well, as this one is as well. And of course, we do encourage you to stick around for the rest of the women's season. If you haven't been keeping an eye on the women's games too much, do get into it. We encourage you to, as we've got a lot of good talent in the women's side. And though this week's game didn't go the way we want, there's a very youthful, talented side, and there's a good future ahead for these women. So stick around for the women's review. But for now, for the end of this review, it's Khan the fucking pair.
Khan the pair.